Nearly 1 million homes utilize some form of solar energy on the property, which means it's more and more likely that realtors are going to start encountering clients who have questions about solar energy and what it means for their home transaction, whether they're buying or selling. To chat with us a little bit about what realtors need to know when buying or selling a home that has solar attached to it, we're joined by Amanda Stitton, NAR's Director for Sustainability and Green Designations, as well as Tom Kimbus, the Executive Vice President at the Solar Energy Industries Association. So Tom, I'm going to start with you. Is there such a thing as a typical solar system? What are realtors most likely to encounter when they come onto a residential property that has solar attached to it?
Most solar systems are very similar, in fact, in that they have just a couple of different components. You're going to have a solar array up on the rooftop. You'll have an inverter that helps control the electricity. It's pretty simple. What you are going to see as time goes on for realtors is there are going to be new advances like batteries, et cetera, going forward. But for the most part, a residential solar system looks pretty much the same.
Are there states or jurisdictions with real estate markets where residential rooftop solar is far more common than others?
Well, California, clearly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we've noticed also an uptick in installations and interest along the East Coast, down in Florida, and even some areas in the Midwest.
Who typically owns the solar system?
Well, there's a couple of different ownership models which are dominant in the market today. The easiest is sort of the straight, just purchase the system. And that's, I would make the analogy to a car. It's like going out, purchasing a car, you're done. Some people, of course, get a loan to do so, but they're still just purchasing a car. Same with the solar system. There is a new model that's been in place for 4 or 5 years, which helps overcome what was a really high first cost of having to pay upfront the entire cost of the system, which is a solar lease. And the solar lease model, in that instance, a solar company would actually keep ownership of the solar system, but charge you a monthly fee to lease it from them. And you get all the electricity that comes out of that system. So similar to leasing a car.
Sounds like this is where things get challenging. What do realtors need to know about the difference between a leased system and one that's owned outright?
Well, it's important to know if it's owned or if it's leased, first of all.
Good place to start.
And understanding some critical elements, I think, about the system, things like the system size and the age, really understanding how it all functions as part of the home and the property.
It's important that the realtor enters the picture and they're selling the home. They're able to convey the documents over to the purchaser. So clarity here, transparency is always first rate.
Now, realtors are going to be familiar with the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, or they might know it as the PACE program. How does that affect the listing or sale of a home? And how does it change the way that the client is potentially going to get financing for a home purchase?
I'd say, PACE has helped a lot of people go solar who normally wouldn't be able to afford to go solar, so it's been great in that regard. In terms of making sure that the purchaser of a home in a real estate transaction understands what attaches to the home and what obligations come with that purchase, it's really important that the seller of the home disclose that there is a PACE loan on the property. That disclosure is very important.
Are there other financing options beyond PACE that a customer or a client might want to consider?
Well, there's a few different options out there. I would encourage people to look at the products that are available through Fannie and Freddie, and then also work with a bunch of the different companies that are out there that offer comparisons about the solar lending process.
Now, a big one for realtors is comps, something they do for clients all the time. What should realtors know about preparing comps on a property where there is some sort of solar system?
Yeah, there's been a few studies that have happened regionally or locally in certain markets that look at the value of the system as it compares to the value of the property. And overall, the consumer demand is what drives this sort of growth in an industry like this. And the studies that have occurred have found that in areas like Florida or DC, that there is actually a premium oftentimes on the appraised value of a property. Certainly that's not a standard national premium, but there is evidence that suggests that there is something there.
Now, if a home has solar on it, what changes in the listing process? Is there anything that a realtor needs to do differently before listing a home?
Yeah, a couple of things actually. That's an interesting question. The first is about the system itself, like we talked about the specs of the system, but knowing how to list that system also is critical to getting appropriate valuation and being able to market it to people who are looking for it. I say that because there are fields in the MLS, and if you are listing a property that has solar panels, solar PV residential specifically, you're going to want to make sure you include that field, not in the comments section, but in the MLS field if that is an option in your MLS. Realtors should see more and more of that as the months go on, based on some changes that are occurring in the market. But that really makes it searchable. So if other agents have a client who are seeking out solar on a property, they can go ahead and search for the solar field that's in the MLS.
Tom, I'm sure at some point a realtor is going to sell a home that has a solar system on it, and they're going to get a call from someone who says, we need to maintain the system, we need to fix it up. Where can a realtor send them?
Well, the maintenance on a solar system is usually fairly minimal. Say for the system I own in my own house, I haven't done very much with it at all, except let it rain. If you're in a very dusty sort of area where you don't get a lot of rain in the Southwest, or perhaps in a kind of a marine coastal environment, you may need to wash those panels. But if there's any kind of electrical maintenance, it is an appliance that comes up, there are hundreds of solar contractors out there. So our site, SEIA.org, SEIA.org, or the Better Business Bureau would have information on reputable contractors in your area.
So it shouldn't be hard to find a contractor. No. So what tax credits or other incentives are available to a buyer who wants to add solar to their home?
There's an excellent resource, a website that the DSIREUSA.org. That is a database that has all of the federal and state incentives, and you can find things like the solar renewable energy credit on there, which is a very nice incentive for home buyers. And then we also have, through NAR.Realtor, we have a field guide on solar specifically that aggregates a bunch of information, articles, industry data that's really helpful for agents.
Anything else you want to add on top, Tom?
Well, I think Amanda nailed it. I think that the kind of core policy from an incentive perspective is the federal investment tax credit, which is a 30% tax credit, not a deduction, but a credit you get, and that is in place at 30% for the next several years. So I encourage folks to take a look into it.
Then the question is, future of solar. I mean, what can realtors expect to see in terms of solar energy in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, as costs have fallen, they've fallen by 70% since 2010 for solar, so it's becoming more affordable for people, and so we're seeing many more systems go up, as I mentioned earlier. I would say we've done a lot of work with our association to make sure that consumers are protected and understand the transaction. You have to feel comfortable entering any transaction, and solar is included in that. It's a big investment, so make sure you do your homework. Make those 3 or 4 calls to different companies to get different estimates, and always call references. But I think you're going to find there are a lot of great solar companies out there who've got an option for you.